Discussion and updates related to COVID-19 pandemic. Chief Smith.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's good to be here again today. I hope that y'all are enjoying the cooler weather. We actually have a lot of good news again. COVID continues to decrease. These are from both the Department of State Health Services and Public Health Region 7, so we've got good numbers again all the way around. Total number of COVID-19 cases to date, 3,528,564. For Lampasas County, a total of 2,999. And I looked on a different website, and they show that we've actually had 3 more since today. I don't know how accurate that is, but don't be surprised if that comes up. The last meeting we had, this number was 2976, so you can see that we are decreasing quite a bit as far as the weekly count on that. Active cases in the state, now we're down to 76,594. This last time that we met was 114,488. Looking at active cases, in Lampasas, shows that we're down to 38. On this last meeting, we were at 67. And then new cases across the state was 1,044. Fatalities in the state today were 53. Total fatalities in the state, just over 70,000. DSHS shows to report 66 fatalities for Lampasas. Public Health shows us with only 65. Seems like the state has been accurate on this. It's just they're getting that information ahead of time, so be fully prepared that we'll have another fatality in here. Let's see. The one positive that we had, the report that we get from Public Health on each Friday, showed that we had 1 new positive case this last week, this last reporting period. So we are going down a significant amount. Hospitalizations, they're the same across the state. We're down to 2,801. Last meeting, we were over 4,000. Let's see, in trauma service area L, we're at 41 people hospitalized with COVID-19. 31 of those are in general beds, 8 are adults in ICU. We have a total of, I think it's six adults that are on ventilators right now with that. We do have 2 pediatric patients. We've had 10 admissions in the hospital in trauma service L today from COVID. Vaccinations, at least 1 shot by zip code, 76550, be 5,791. Fully vaccinated is 5,046. If we look at Lampasas County, we're over 10,000 now for the first shot. Have at least 10,000 that have been vaccinated for the first shot. And then we've got 8,763 that are completely vaccinated. The last bit of information I'll talk about tonight, been a lot of discussion as far as the boosters. Can you do this? Can you do that? And then they've also come up with Pfizer now is available for anybody ages 5 to 12. So yes, Pfizer is good to go with 5 to 12-year-olds. As far as the booster shots, regardless of what booster that you had, you can get whatever for a booster. So if you had J&J the first time, it's okay to have Pfizer. If you had Pfizer the first time, it's good to have Moderna. Moderna, you can have whatever, so you can intermingle all those. Moderna is the only one that changes in the booster. Moderna is going to go from 100 micrograms down to 50 micrograms. The others are going to stay at the same dose on that. That's all I have for this evening. Do y'all have any questions related to COVID-19?
Quick question.
Go ahead.
Are the deaths, is that from the beginning of
Yes.
the pandemic? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Total from the time of it.
Okay. And why would somebody need a booster shot? What would be the criteria on that one?
Well, if you feel like you're older, if you're more at risk, if you're immunocompromised, if you're in the healthcare industry, if you are a teacher, if you're around in a surrounding where you feel like, hey, I'm more exposed, I'm more predisposed to having some type of a problem with this, if you feel like you're out there and getting that, if you have any type of existing medical problems or anything like that. Now, to distinguish the booster versus the 3rd dose, they had come out with that extra dose based off of letting the doctors say, hey, I just don't think that you got a good dosing of it, that we feel like we need to get that a little bit higher. And then the booster is if you're 6 months out from your last vaccination, then we're going to boost that altogether. I don't know. I couldn't tell you, boy, you should get that or anything like that. But if firefighters came to me and said, hey, because of what we do, I fall into this category, yeah, I can see that, and we'll do what we can to set that up. But again, with any vaccination, let me encourage you, you can go to Walmart, you can go to local pharmacies here in town. The vaccination is plentiful. Contact your doctor. Feel like if you need to take a booster, if you feel like you need a third shot, you should do that, but seek your medical advice.
How did your clinic go, the last one?
You know, they ended up having it at the middle school, so we really, we can't even take credit for that one, as much as I'd like to. We were doing good as long as they were there at the fire station. I don't know what time they did, but I would imagine that it was a success again. If it wasn't, maybe they'll return back to the fire station now.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, sir. Next item, discussion regarding review of short-term goals of the comprehensive plan implementation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening. This is the third in a series of presentations we've been giving you. We've taken another bite out of the, and hopefully the last two elements that we'll have to deal with, at least in this format. So just a couple of things that we want to remind you of. These are the last two elements. Again, we want to spend some time this evening reviewing the short-term goals and objectives, and then what we've tried to do, at least initially, is come up with some specific action steps that hopefully the byproduct of doing those action steps will be achieving that goal. We do have 7 short-term goals tonight, so it'll be about the same length as last meeting. The elements that we're looking at are mobility. That has a lot to do with not just traffic, but pedestrian trails, the complete streets policy. We'll also take a look at element 6, and those are things that would fall into the realm of public safety, parks, support of our schools and advanced training opportunities, the airport, more kind of leans more towards city facilities. And I think just like I said last time, the theme with a lot of these will be related to public participation and public engagement. In order for us to get to a lot of these steps, we're going to have to do more public engagement and probably some more planning as well. Just a couple of quick things. We want to also take a look at the implementation steps kind of in a rolled up version at our next opportunity. And we also want to discuss maybe a date and time for a discussion, a more in-depth discussion on those action steps, maybe in perhaps a council planning session. And we'll talk about that towards the end of my comments. Short-term objectives, the first one, 514, is something that came up in a lot of our public discussion, public participation, particularly from some of the downtown business owners, is how do we get trucks away from the downtown area? It's not Main Street, but it's downtown. And the action steps included getting a working group put together, taking a look at those businesses that receive frequent deliveries and how maybe they can help us by having their trucks enter the downtown corridor from a different direction. Taking a look at maybe additional and effective signage, review enforcement options, and then ultimately we also would like to keep an eye and keep tabs on the relief route process that TxDOT is currently going through, that the city has signed a resolution on. Councilmember Clark?
On the downtown area, is TxDOT working on anything on 4th Street to try to alleviate that truck traffic that you know of? I know they've done studies in the past.
They have done studies. They've improved, if you can call it an improvement, but they have made an improvement on 4th and Key to push back those stop bars a little bit to the east. Ultimately, the relief route, I think, is going to be the ultimate solution. Chief Bailey has also done some kind of targeted enforcement. But we still also have a lot of businesses that get big trucks coming down to make deliveries too.
Right.
So I think what the action step suggests is it needs to be a very comprehensive approach, including TxDOT.
Well, if you're gonna do a public meeting on something like that, one area that, I've also had some comments made, I know in Texas, we're not very good at using crosswalks, but, I was wondering what the ability would be to slow down some of the traffic down in the downtown area, and have a pedestrian right-of-way.
There is one on 4th Street, but nobody pays attention to it. I don't know if it's.
Yeah, that's a state highway, or it's not a state highway, but it's state maintained.
It is, and they're supposed to let pedestrians go, but it's,
Well, you know, they put signs up and they
there's-
run over the signs, so that's what I don't,
today I was on 3rd Street and there's a cattle truck coming down and he's very slow. Obviously, he doesn't know where he is. I think a lot of them get on our streets because they don't know where they're going. And I'm thinking, what would a cattle truck be doing down here to leave cattle at Ajinomoto or something? But obviously, he was lost. I think a lot of them use their GPS and they don't know where to go other than where it's telling them to.
yeah, and the sight line down there is very limited because of that jog in 3rd Street and with the, you know, the congregation of all the vehicles down on 4th.
It's a very bad street.
And I
to
think
try
what
to
I'm
get
hearing
over.
from you is similar to what the public told us through the comprehensive planning process, and it'll take a comprehensive approach, I think, to deal with a number of the issues that you've identified.
Okay, thank you.
The next one is something that I guess, you know, we didn't have to wait for a comprehensive planning session to know this, but, you know, the extension of walking trails, I think by and large, to connect W.M. Brook Park with Campbell Park and perhaps even beyond that. But making those connections, and I think, again, taking a look at getting some folks involved, conducting a walking tour, taking a look at some of these transition areas, wayfinding signage, and I think at that point, once you've done some of those things, then you can take what maybe your desired outcomes are and look at maybe a scope for a design proposal. That may not necessarily be all the steps you need, but that would certainly get us started. And then, obviously, there's a lot of work to do with landowners, property owners, et cetera. But procure professional design and implement the project ultimately. But it takes a spade work prior to that to get that done. We get into element number 6. In some of these items, and I think I even mentioned this last time, some of it is, you know, we're already doing some of these things. It's just a continuation, and I think that'll be something that you'll see in a lot of these items that are coming up. Short-term objective 615 is update the Lampasas Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Master Plan, and I think perhaps that probably starts with a joint meeting with the Park Board and City Council. Again, to try to assess what is the byproduct or what is the deliverable that we want, what are the questions we want answered, and what is the steps, the planning steps going forward. I think you also want to engage the public in a town hall type format, develop a preliminary scope, and then ultimately, once you get a document or your desired deliverable, review and adopt by both the Parks Board and City Council. 622. And this is something that I didn't really like the way this was drafted. However, the feedback that the city received regarding L-Check was that it's a very important resource, and how do we continue to support it and expand its mission. And again, I think there's probably 3 entities that have a stake in that, not only the L-Check board, City Council, and the LEDC, and perhaps more LISD for that matter. But it probably starts again with similar to the previous step, is a a joint meeting with the LCHEC Board, City Council, LEDC Board, and I don't know if you'd want maybe school board included in that as well. Take a look at not only what those groups are doing or what they're seeing, but also take a look at what Mandy's been able to glean from her interviews with major employers in terms of their needs and trying to address some targeted training models for those employers, and then continue to keep up with the work of LCHEC through their executive director. Element 6.5.4 has to do specifically with something that came up. Let's see, am I looking at the 6.5.4? Oh, fire department. Yes, fire department training efforts, increase the amount of training for both paid and volunteer personnel. And I think my action steps take a more global view of it. It's not just fire department personnel, but I'm saying, maintain and update a professional development plan for all employees, target annual training goals, and then just like we do every year when we talk to you about the budget, we say, this is our training plan, this is how much we want to invest in our workforce to get them more technically competent. 6.5.6, support fire department efforts in advancing use of technology to improve the safety of the Lampasas community. I think some of this was probably related to the communication system and the technology that we've already frankly implemented or beginning to implement in that regard. But I think this also dovetails with what we're currently doing in the CIP program. We actually have a separate category for planning for capital projects related to technology. But again, try to take a look at best practices and best technology practices in other communities and continue to include technology projects in the city's annual CIP process. 6.5.7, this evaluate the near and long-term needs regarding Lampasas provision of EMS response, and I think the scope of that element is probably a little bit broader. It has to do not only with EMS response, but also, our response in the county. How do we handle a growing community within our corporate boundaries, as well as the need to provide services both in and in some cases outside of our service. And I think that's something that is best discussed with the various stakeholders, including the county commissioners, public safety chiefs, elected officials, taking a look at what is everyone seeing in terms of the trends and the potential future demands on our police, fire, and EMS around the city. We may need to develop alternate protocols for response. Those primarily the SOPs. We need to assess funding options through the city budget process, and not just necessarily even city funds, but what is our mix and how is that need being addressed in the county, and how are we able to afford that? We can't always wait for, we get called in on mutual aid a fair amount. I cannot say that because just frankly the status of our department, that we're in the status of the other departments in the county, that we're going to get a whole lot of mutual aid from other folks, particularly if it's during the day. But something that we've tried to identify some of the steps required that would address this element. In terms of next steps, I think what we want to do at this point is, we want to roll all of the last 3 meetings' action steps up into one document. That way you have just one set of specific action steps to take a look at. We need your feedback. We need to know what we missed on and what is of higher priority to you. I think the standard comment you've heard from me is, let's just make sure we're not being redundant in our planning process. If it's something that's really already being taken care of by the CIP committee, then let's just go ahead and check that box and say it's being taken care of by that group or through a budgeting process. I think this would be a great inclusion in a kind of follow-up planning session from our July meeting. And I guess a couple of things that I would throw out to you. We are about to come up on Thanksgiving and Christmas break, which I checked with Kathy, talked to her a little bit because I knew she was not going to be here tonight, but we do have a meeting on the 22nd, which is the week of Thanksgiving. And if folks are in town, we could even start that meeting at 2 or 3 in the afternoon and roll right into our normal. If that's too much to stomach for one day, then we could do it on a different day, but I just wanted to maybe gauge your interest in one, that sort of format again, maybe not quite as long, and two, do you have time, are you going to be around, you know, for example, that first week, that week of Thanksgiving, or school is out the 17th of December, so if there's anything along those lines that works for you. So those two questions are, I wouldn't expect you to have your list of 3 pages worth of notes and questions prepared already, but I think we want to try to facilitate some of that time, some of that input at the next meeting, and certainly would be interested in your availability during that time, Mayor.
I'm going to be painting on the downtown windows on the 22nd, but I can break away from that. So anytime, I'm pretty much available. I'm good.
I would say let's try to schedule it sometime after Thanksgiving, say between the end of Thanksgiving weekend and the 15th of December, somewhere in that neighborhood, if we could. That'd get us out before Christmas holidays and give us some time. That's what that was one of my next questions. When are we going to start implementing this?
So I could,
As far as workshop?
I would prefer to wait till after the 4th of December. That would be good for me.
Okay. First part of December, I'm pretty well open too.
Okay? It's a Saturday. How about you? You're good. And I really do like the idea that we're going to meet with other entities, because it sometimes feels like the city takes it all on.
Right.
And I think we need some backup. I think the county needs to step up. And I also think the LCHEC and those meetings with EDC and the council. And I think the ISD as well, because not to like the Lone Ranger, but I think we do take on so much of stuff that we should get some help with.
And I feel like us and ISD are running parallel tracks, but we're running in opposite directions sometime. And
So I would include ISD in that meeting as well, Finley, if everyone else is agreeable to that.
So school will be in session, obviously not on the 4th or the 5th. Are you thinking the 4th, a Saturday?
No, that's anytime after the 4th.
Oh, after the 4th.
We're going to have a parade and.
But
Carol
before the
Lights on
10th, Councilman, Member Morris? And again, if we did it, does anybody like my suggestion of like starting at 3 on the 22nd and rolling into a meeting? That way, Kathy, it solves the school issue in terms of Councilmember Keeney.
Is everybody okay with
22nd,
right before Thanksgiving?
Monday.
that's a Monday?
That's a council meeting.
If we have lots of family in, you might be.
No, I'm good. I'm good with that.
Monday the 22nd to start early, 2 or 3 o'clock. Is that good for you?
That's okay with me.
Good?
No?
So would 3 be better than 2? Oh. You sure?
Well, we can certainly look at other dates and times.
Well, we were, and then we went back to Finley's idea of having it. On the
If we do it that week during the day, it would probably exclude Councilmember Keeney, would be my guess. But we can throw out a couple of dates to you and see. we'd like everybody here if we can, so we wouldn't want
I'd
to,
hate to exclude her.
right. Okay, sure, yeah.
So go back maybe to the, between the 7th and the 10th? 4th, 5th,
Okay.
6th through the 10th.
Okay,
I'll make it work.
Okay, let's try that, Finley.
I'll,
Just send out an
yeah,
email.
we'll send out a note to you guys on that. Those are my comments on the last two elements.
Any other comments? Next item up is discussion regarding the interlocal agreement between the City of Lampasas and Lampasas County regarding airport property and operations of airport facility.
Mayor and Council, this item is placed on the agenda because 10 years ago, the county and the city entered into an interlocal agreement. Staff is not here to suggest any changes, nor do we recommend any changes. However, it does give us the opportunity to give you some additional background about this agreement. The agreement, when it was executed, did not change anything. The city has been running that airport for a number of years. The deed is dated 1965, and there's obviously an airport on that site even prior to 1965. What it did was memorialize and define the relationship that existed at the time and also exists today. It may have been done primarily, at a request of TxDOT, somebody, maybe Randy, if you know, but it could have been done at a request of TxDOT just to make sure that their funding wasn't clouded on the
Yes,
airport.
we had to clear that up, ownership, because of that.
Just a couple of quick notes on it. The county, in this agreement, does not participate financially. In other words, they do not pay any of the expenses, nor do they receive any of the financial benefits of this lease to the city. They allow this city to operate the airport as it is currently existing. There is an item that says, that both parties are vested in the successful operation. It doesn't preclude us from asking for assistance from the county, but it does not obligate the county to provide that assistance. The renewal term in Section 5, it is a 10-year term on the initial, and then if you don't do anything, it just keeps rolling over every 2 years. Certainly anything you would like to do, the time is right. The county judge has not suggested that he had any suggestions or any recommendations, but it allows us to continue to operate as we are. I'd be happy to, I don't know that the airport board has any other recommendations. I think this is just an item that we bring to you because it's rolled up, and I think it gives us an opportunity to educate you a little bit about the history.
Has J.C. ever reviewed this? J.C. ever looked at it?
I assume she did in 2011, but I can't imagine
She
she's
did.
looked at
We
it
sent
recently.
Well, the reason I asked, because the laws change, and I didn't know if there was anything in here that, to me, it's pretty plain, but,
Very, yeah.
and I just wondered, the judge made reference to the 10 years. Was there some reason? Did he?
That was the term of the contract, the original
Yes.
term of the contract.
That's the only reason
Correct.
he mentioned it?
Correct. It came up on a tickler file, I'm sure, and
Anything else?
So is there any reason for J.C. to look at it?
I can certainly do that.
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to cause problems, but I always think anytime you're committing yourself for that length of time, it's good to make sure we're covered.
We can do that, absolutely.
Anything else? Next up is discussion regarding street repair costs related to service tap installation.
Mayor and Council, this is placed on your agenda. I think one thing that several years ago, we took a look at our fees fairly comprehensively in terms of a cost recovery basis. So, for example, when we tap someone's sewer main for a new sewer tap, we wanted to make sure that we accounted for the, all of our costs within what it costs to tap a fee, not necessarily anything more, but certainly the goal was not to do anything less. Again, it comes back to the premise that I've talked to you about on several different projects. The party that receives a benefit should pay for the cost of that benefit, as in a sewer tap. What Carlos has come up with is that, a lot of times his street patching is not part of that cut. I think we did a good job at the time itemizing what it costs for our water and wastewater crews to come in and tap a line, dig a line up, tap it. And there's some variability, obviously, with that in terms of the depth and the amount of base you have to put back in, et cetera. But the model was to try to recover all those costs. We may have a hole in our tapping fees that I think what I'd like to do is explore a little bit more and be a little more precise. If we are missing out on some of the road recovery costs, we'd want to ask you guys if you would like to include that in the fee schedule. But I'm not comfortable saying that all taps are equal to $1,000 or $1,300 because of the different variables that exist when cutting a road open or tapping a main.
Yeah, I don't think it'd hurt to take a cost analysis of it. I mean, you try to average out between the short taps and long taps, and
Right.
And I don't think it ever hurts for you to do and your staff to do a benefit analysis.
We used to do a behind the curb and an under pavement price, as well as if for some reason the main was behind the curb, which doesn't, I don't even know where we have mains behind the curb. I think we do some
Sure.
over on that side of town, but most of the times we're cutting the street anyway. But
So I think we'd feel better if you did some studies and brought it back to us, right? Is everyone agree?
Yes.
we'll do that.
Next item is anything regarding any item on the regular agenda. Does anyone wish to discuss anything? Do we want to take a 5-minute break or get it through? We'll just keep going? Is that okay with everyone?
That's good with me.
I'm sorry. Right.
Move to adjourn the workshop session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chief Bailey?
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, none of us is here without reason. You have placed each and every one of us here today for your will. Father, we ask that you continue to watch over our meeting and that you see that all continue to be safe and well. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please join me in the pledges. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
I don't believe we have any presentations and proclamations. Public hearing and citizen comments. Any citizen who desires to address the City Council on a matter not included on the agenda may do so at this time. The City Council may not deliberate on items presented under this agenda item. We have no one. Second is any citizen who desires to address the City Council on a matter that is included may do so at this time. No? Minutes, discussion and possible action concerning the approval of minutes of the regular meeting held on October 25th, 2021.
I didn't see any corrections. Recommend approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda, discussion and possible action regarding purchases and charges in excess of $4,000 from October 1 to October 31, 2021. Item 2, discussion and possible action regarding the second reading of the ordinance to adopt the 2021 ICC codes and 2020 NEC. Does anyone wish to pull either of those? I'd entertain a motion.
Recommend approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? City Manager's operational report.
Mayor and Council, just a few brief comments this evening. Park projects, we have met with the pavilion contractor. We're waiting some contract submittals prior to execution. He is also proceeding with sourcing materials and scheduling that project. The skate park design build contract has been executed and returned, and we'll be preparing for initial stakeholder meetings per his scope. Reliance Architecture has also indicated their design team will be on site, at the hostess house November 12th to start the 3D scanning for as-built and CAD plans that will be required for the consulting engineers as well as the architect. 580 Sports Complex, we received word last week that the irrigation controls have been pushed back approximately 2 weeks. We have been blessed by recent rains, and we actually got some fertilizer on those fields before the rain hit. Airport, Jesse Acosta reports that the parts are in for the ongoing, or the problems that we've been having with the fueling system. We did have, needed an upgrade to the card reader. Unfortunately, the card reader system was not compatible with the pumping system. And we've also had the misfortune of having a series of bad parts that have resulted to kind of ongoing issues with the fuel system. We're hopeful that this will finally solve the problem and that we'll be able to get those contractors dispatched to come install the parts as soon as possible. I thought they may have even been here by this meeting, but I didn't get a chance to check in with Jesse this morning. Night Sky, some of the folks on the Lampasas County Friends of the Night Sky have requested a meeting with staff on November 10th just to follow up on council's recent action. Their primary focus is to build greater awareness for the benefits. And as we've informed council previously, our crews typically use best practices which ultimately meet the goals of that program. Substation, we are working with LCRA regarding the upgrades to the Lampasas sub. We have discussed that they're probably going to be working in earnest on site either fourth quarter of this year or early 22 for the relocation of certain facilities. That will include some city facilities, but they will reimburse us for those relocations. Fire engine, I think everybody got a chance to go see the shiny truck and lights, and just wanted to remind folks that Chief Smith is in the stages of specifying a replacement with a target delivery of 2023. I don't know, Chief Smith, do you want to make any comment on? Good. If you have any questions, call Chief Smith. Business Park, and I think if you wait to see Mandy's report that'll come out, it'll be a little more detailed than mine, but we did have the opportunity to review a 90% plan set on November 4th, which included our ad alternate of the extension of road to the southern entrance on 183. Previously, we just had the one point of ingress-egress on the Old Austin Highway, as well one on the north end of that property onto 183. This would provide us the option, if bids are low enough, to include that additional extension, and we may, at the very least, do the grading so that we have all of our maybe rough grading done. That would allow us to plant utilities or plant electric poles if we needed to go up that route. We will be working in parallel on the electric side because those should not affect the other utilities and road work going in. And that also we're probably looking at least some, probably not to the lot level, but to the block level in terms of platting. And that would allow us greater flexibility with potential users, as well as allow those public dedications to be made. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Finley. Mayor's comments. I would like to just say that Vision Lampasas had a very successful Squared Silly last Saturday night. Don't think there were any accidents or incidents, and all of the nonprofits looked as though they were doing really well. And I would like to thank all the staff that helped make that possible. I know we depend on all of you for that. Police, fire, parks. So thank you all. New business. We have no unfinished business, so I'll go to new business. Discussion and possible action concerning the approval of a bid from Hoffmeyer Ford in the amount of $49,459 for a 2022 Ford F-350 Super Duty 4x4 to replace a 1999 Ford F-250 pickup for the DNC superintendent.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. As you said, Mayor, this truck is replacing a 1999 Ford. We're planning on to keep that vehicle in fleet for a few years and then get rid of it on Gov Deals. If y'all have any questions or concerns or comments,
I'm wondering how long it's going to take you to get it.
I have not heard that at all from Ford. They were, this time last year, I know it took almost a year to get it. They really don't know.
Okay.
One quick question
Sir,
on the back, are you getting a cover for it?
yes, there will be a cover on the back.
And you're not paying it out of this bid price, right?
It is in the bid
It
price.
is in the bid price,
Yes.
okay? And the liner?
Not getting a liner.
Not getting a liner. Okay, but you are getting a cover. Is it a hard
Oh,
cover?
I'm sorry, there is a bed liner and a cover.
That's what I thought. It's a hard cover?
Yes,
Okay,
retractable hardcover.
okay.
Any other comments, questions?
Will you be able to lock it?
Yes, it has a lock on it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous?
Thank you.
Thanks, Van. 7.2, discussion and possible action regarding a resolution to cast votes for Lampasas County Appraisal District, LCAD, for the Board of Directors.
Mayor and Council, this item is placed on the agenda, provides you the opportunity to vote for your LCAD representation. This is and yes, I am kind of smiling about this because it is somewhat, we get the lowest number of votes of any taxing entity, and that's because our assessment is the lowest of any jurisdiction in the county. So, I meant to look up what the school district has. I think they have a couple of thousand votes.
Yeah.
We have 300 votes that you can cast on the 5 candidates, none of which are contested. So this is put on the agenda because we need to put it on the agenda, and you can direct us to cast your vote by resolution however you choose. The straight even split is 60, or if you like one person more than the other, just give them all 300 votes. It's up
We
to you.
ordinarily don't
Won't make
even-
any difference, is what I'm saying.
We ordinarily don't even do anything with this, do we?
In some years, you have allocated votes, and some years you have
If we're
not.
gonna do anything at all, just split them across the board. I don't even care if we vote
that a
or
motion?
not. Is that a motion? To split them across the board?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Second.
just split them evenly.
Got a motion and a second to split them across the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
We will forward this resolution to the LCAD.
7.3, discussion and possible action to approve the first reading of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, Fee Schedule, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 5. 4, Lampasas Public Library, adding fees related to Wi-Fi hotspot device lending.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm speaking on behalf of Shanda Subia. She couldn't be here this evening. She recently, over the last few years, have gotten the hotspots available for citizens to be able to rent. And over the course of them having these available to them, they've had some that have been damaged or not all the components have been returned. So their board met and they decided they wanted to start charging a fee for that. So on here, you'll see on the ordinance that we've identified it as being $10 for any hotspot component missing or returned damaged. And that's what they're asking to do this evening. And the other thing you'll notice is back in June of 2017, they did do the any USB hotspot or other media non-return, lost, stolen, or damaged was $100, and that for some reason was omitted off the fee schedule, so I'm just putting that back on.
Okay. A motion, and then we could discuss it?
Move to approve, but
What is
A
it? What,
second? Could we get a second?
Second.
Okay, now we can have some questions. Randy?
I just, $10 seems awful cheap for damaged. What is involved? What does it cost to replace?
I do not know. I'm imagining the cost to replace is something that's discussed and brought upon when they had originally purchased them. When the library board went through and they discussed it, this is what they felt was fair. They originally wanted to do $5, and then they went up to $10. So that was just something that was discussed
It
and
doesn't seem like
decided
much
upon.
punishment for tearing something up.
No, sir.
Mayor, and I think the example that Shanda gave me was a power cord, or something like that. So that,
I don't know that $10 sends the message.
what do these hotspots do? I'm,
For the kids that don't necessarily have internet at home.
okay.
They can rent it. They can rent it, a little hotspot that they can take with them.
I've got you.
And there's certain requirements and, you know, that they have at the library to be a member, and they have to have a library card, and they go in, you know, basically they're just using this product and then they're supposed to return it, and some of them aren't returned properly, so they're just asking for a little bit of recoup on those funds. But normally, just like Mr. Graffner had stated, it's charging cables, charging blocks, a little plastic case, just small things that don't come back, but it just makes it incomplete, and they're just trying to recover some funds.
You know how many that don't actually come back altogether?
I don't have a number for that.
Okay.
Do you need more information on this?
Not necessarily.
You know, I'll go with what they submitted, but that, you know, $10 probably is more to a child than it would be their parents, but that's not much money for a lesson.
Well, it's not the hotspot itself, it's just a component of it. It's like a
Right.
charging, the plastic case, a cord. It's not significant to the actual device itself.
I just think there's
It's
a
just-
lesson there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Next up is discussion and possible action regarding the reappointment of board member to the Library Advisory Board.
This is one more of my September annual review that I go through. For the library, what we're doing is we're actually going to reappoint Catherine Hale, but we're only going to do it until the end of December because that's when she's going to resign from the board. So at that time, we'll come back to you and have somebody appointed to cover her position.
A motion?
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Anyone need to ask questions?
I just have a question. So just appointing her to finish out the year, so it's basically like a month of being reappointed, and then,
It just, all of the terms expire in September, and so it just depends on when they meet and when they're able to talk about who they want to reappoint or appoint as a board. So I give them that courtesy and give them time, but it just happened that Catherine decided not to be reappointed for another 2 years. She just wanted to do it until the end of the year and resign. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe she's a secretary or treasurer of the board as well. So I think she's ending her term and finishing up the books maybe for the year.
Gotcha.
And then somebody else will be reappointed or appointed for her position and going forward.
I was just wondering why we were appointing just to appoint again in a
Yeah,
month, sorry.
it's just a formality.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. 7.5, discuss and consider the selection of the winner of the website photo contest entry.
Mayor and City Council, there was one photo entry for the month of October.
Move to approve entry one.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. 7.6, discussion and possible action regarding a 2005 JD lightweight fairway mower to deem as surplus and allow staff to dispose of as state law allows.
You're stuck with me again, sorry. Mr. Knowlton cannot be here this evening. Again, this is a 2005 JD lightweight fairway mower. We do have the actual document that Steve provided for me with regards to the mower, the roller on the mower needs to be replaced. It is operable though. Is there a question?
Could I get a motion?
Recommend approval.
What are we approving?
I'm sorry, I just thought there was a question that somebody had, but this is in reference to, this is surplus that the Parks Department has, and right now this mower it's operable, but it needs a new roller to replace it, and so it served its purpose. It started in the golf course, moved over to the parks, and they're just wanting to get rid of it at this point. And so
Second.
We have a motion and a,
Second.
now we could ask some questions. Does anyone have any questions?
So it can't be repaired and still used?
it possibly could be repaired. They just don't need this equipment. It's 2005. Like I said, it's gone as far as it can go as far as they're concerned. They do have one already that's newer and that they're actually using and maintaining. They just don't need another one.
Are we gonna take bids on it? What are they, I mean, are they gonna sell it surplus? Are they just gonna request a price, or?
We normally just put them on there onto Gov Deals. We normally don't put a limit bid on there.
You
when
post
it
that
comes
like
to,
on the
but we've-
website or something? How do you,
On Gov Deals, yes, sir. That's how we do it. We put it on there. We post the pictures of the machine or of the equipment that we're getting rid of, as well as we have the actual maintenance form that we fill out that describes all the detail of the condition of it, and then they take bids on it, and then we normally do it for 2 weeks, and then we normally don't put a starting bid or a hold on it or whatever the requirement might be.
thank you.
Have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. 7.7, discussion regarding canceling the December 27th, 2021 City Council meeting.
Mayor and Council, I incorrectly put my motion on here to be back in 2020, but I'm really asking that we cancel the meeting for December 27th of 2021.
Move that we cancel the meeting for December 27th, 2021.
I second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to assume there were no opposed to that. We will be adjourning into executive session.
Move to adjourn to executive session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We will be in executive session relating to the authority of public power utility governing bodies to deliberate regarding competitive matters. Session. There were none. I would take a motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Let's go home.